Today is a big day because RTR has just debuted their all-new Spec 5 Mustang. And in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about this vehicle because, quite frankly, it's a game changer in the segment. So first off, let's talk a little bit about what RTR is and also what the Spec 5 is. Then we're going to dive into the details on exactly what you get for the price tag. So first off, RTR Vehicles stands for Ready to Rock. This is Vaughn Gittin Jr.'s brand of basically partying with a vehicle for over 15 years. Now, Vaughn is a very smart guy, and he's also a very nice guy. I've had a chance to meet with him multiple times, and I consider him as a friend, and I think at the end of the day, he's just a good dude because long before I ever had a chance to know who he is, he's the same person on camera as he is off camera. And that I got a lot of respect for. But what is the Spec 5 Mustang? Well, you have a Spec 1, Spec 2, Spec 3, and now the Spec 5. Yes, they're skipping a Spec 4 just because I guess it doesn't sound as good, but the Spec 5 is the next iteration of actually high-performance vehicles. But the most popular seller to this point has been the Spec 2 and the Spec 3. The Spec 2 is basically a Mustang GT with a GT performance pack on most of them, and they've got the full kit of RTR all the way around the vehicle, from tactical suspension system, wheels, tires. You've got front end aerodynamic work going on. You've got stuff, basically a full-blown body kit all the way around. But the Spec 5 is a whole nother level on not just a wide body kit, which is probably the first thing that you notice. There is that, but there's also a lot more going on with the vehicle. Specifically speaking, they start out with a 401A equipment group Mustang GT with the GT performance package. And what they do, because it's got that 5.0 V8, they also upfit it with a 3-liter supercharger, making over 870 horsepower, which is a ridiculous amount of horsepower. And they do that not obviously because of the supercharger, but they also have an HD race intercooler that allows to keep everything inside of that engine bay nice and cool. Now, they've also got an RTR by Borla catback exhaust system.
I couldn't wait till tomorrow, friends. You all have got to hear the new Mustang RTR Spec 5. Drift car, but you know it can drift, baby. Let's go.
What I think is so cool about this car is you should be able to spec it in a 6-speed manual transmission or a 10-speed automatic transmission. So if you are wanting something that can shift faster, you go with the 10-speed. If you want to manual shift it, just because it's a lot more fun, you've got that 6-speed manual transmission for you. But let's talk a little bit about this wide body system, because at the end of the day, I think this is the single-handedly the most visually different thing about this car versus all of the other ones. Because this is not just like a bolt-on fender flare type of a system. It is a fully integrated system, and all of the mounting points are actually mounted beneath the surface. So no visible bolts running down the body lines where they hook up this this body kit, this wide body kit, if you will. That is single-handedly got to be one of the most difficult parts of this, because especially when you start doing like that rear quarter system, it is not easy to hide all of that hardware from an engineering standpoint. That's one of the things I think RTR's got down pat, is they've got some awesome designers, and they've got some awesome engineers, and they've also got some awesome build partners, which is going to be building this vehicle for the RTR system. And by the way, speaking of building these vehicles, I know for a fact I've got at least one allocation for this car. They're going to be limited, I think 50 units per year. And I know I can get my hands on at least one. I guess I'm holding up 2 fingers. So I know I can get one, probably can get a second allocation. But even though it's crazy as that, I'll be happy to honor invoice pricing on the car itself. So if you want some information on ordering one of those vehicles, the phone number's right there on the screen. Or in fact, even better, you can send an email right there. That email will come directly into me, and I'll make sure that I personally handle your situation if you're ready to order that vehicle, me personally, because this is such a unique vehicle. I don't want you just to have to deal with anybody. So you can reach me. The email is going to be the best way to do that. All right. So getting back to the wide body kit for a second, This wide body kit is actually made out of a composite system. And so you get full front fenders, you have bumper extensions. So that way the fenders on the front don't seem like they're wider than the bumper itself. You want to make sure that it's got the nice flow going all the way around the vehicle. And then you also have a wide body system for the rocker panels and also the rear quarters. But I'll tell you, the coolest part about that is the tire cooling ducts that they have out of that rear quarter system. I think it's a visually probably one of the coolest parts about the entire wide body kit. And it also has got some carbon fiber components I'm going to talk about in just a second. But you also have some wheel arches with ducts. And because you're going with a wider vehicle, most people don't think about this. You need to fill it in with some felt wheel well liner. So that way it looks complete, even if you take the tires off or if you're looking up underneath there. So you've got that as well. As I alluded to you just a second ago, there are some exposed carbon fiber components all over the vehicle. The front chin splitter, you have the wake tower assemblies for the front and the rear. You even have rocker splitters have also got carbon fiber exposed, which I think looks fantastic. Rear quarter splitters, the bespoke fuel door, and you also have billet arms that operate that fuel door. So this is a really, really cool system. And I was wondering how they were going to be able to pull this off, because when you go wide body, you also have to update the fuel door. And so they've got a bespoke fuel door, billet arms, and laser printed nylon bucket to make sure that it all looks OEM. And they do a great job of that. So you might be wondering, okay, so there's obviously a lot of really cool things going on and even more stuff I haven't even covered yet. But let's go ahead and jump into the price. $159,999. Now that includes the price of the 401A Equipment Group Mustang GT with the performance pack. So that starting price is all inclusive. That's not just the cost of the package. That's the package and the vehicle itself. Now, what I mentioned to you earlier is I think you should be able to do it in an automatic transmission or the manual transmission. Obviously, if you go to automatic transmission, that's going to be an extra cost because the automatic transmission costs more from the factory. A couple of other upgrades that you can pay for would be different versions of the paint. So let's talk about this for a second. Every single one of the Spec 5s get an extended palette standard paint job. Why is that? Well, because you've got these new wide body kit that you've got to paint. Well, sometimes if you just paint the wide body kit and you go with the old paint from the factory, it may not match up. So every single Spec 5 is going to start life as a black vehicle on the OEM window sticker. Fun fact for you. And then from there, the build partners with RTR is actually going to do a complete paint job on the vehicle. And you have a certain number of selected standard equipment colors. Now, you obviously have some options to upgrade that paint. In fact, let's just talk about what the standard paint options are and what some of the upgrades are. So standard paint included in that $159 MSRP, Avalanche Gray, which is so cool. Fashion Gray, Grabber Blue, Gulf Orange, Hyper Lime, Leadfoot Gray, NATO Olive, NATO, you know, same thing. Don't ask me pronounce this one, Rosso Scuderia, I don't know. But there you go. Shadow Black is also an option because, once again, that's the factory color from the vehicle. Now, if you wanted to pay an optional upgrade of $7,500, you have these colors available to you. Antimatter Blue, which I don't think you can get on a Mustang at all, which is kind of cool. Blue Corsa, Caribbean Blue Pearl, Lightning Silver, Midnight Purple, Millennium Jade, Oak Green, Soul Red, and Xenon Gray. And next up, you have some big boy paint job options. So you have color shift paint jobs, and then you also have paint to sample options. Both of those are going to run you $15,000 as an option. The options you've got for this $15,000 is you can go with a Mistachrome paint job, which is the old school flip-flop color. It goes from blue to purple to green, and it's beautiful. Another crazy color that you have available with that $15,000 option is Urban Bamboozle, which looks so cool. I've had a chance to see a couple of those in person, and it looks awesome. It is wild, and you have to see it in person. But if none of those options work for you, you also have paint to sample. And the way that that works is pretty simple. Every single customer that orders one of these vehicles, you get to do the paint paint to sample, they will not only give you a rendering of your vehicle, regardless of what color you pick on any of those different paint options. They'll give you a rendering, but if you do the paint to sample, they will actually spray out a paint sample of your color and send it to you physically to verify before you actually have the car built, which I think is a really cool touch. Now let's move into some more of the exterior components of this car. So first off, you get the normal RTR grille, LED intakes. This is iconic, and this is what makes RTR RTR. I think this grille looks fantastic, but you also have a lower grille to match it, as well as corner grills in that front bumper. You also have an under tray extension to make sure that that new chin splitter is going to match up to everything else. And once again, it's not going to jack up your aerodynamics on the vehicle. You also have hood vents from RTR to let all of that heat out of the engine. You also have a deck lid spoiler from RTR, and you have a whole bunch of different badging all the way around, like the RTR grill badge, the Spec 5 brushed grill badge. You also have the RTR brushed front wake tower badges, and then you also have the RTR deck lid badge. So lots of badging all over the vehicle. Extended speed block graphics. So those graphics that run down the vehicle, those are actually going to be longer than they are on like a Spec 2. And then you also have the windshield banner up there on the front windshield. So now let's talk about the wheels, tires, and the suspension components. Because at the end of the day, RTR is known for their suspension. They're known for driving crazy and just having a good time at the end of the day. RTR Tactical Suspension System comes with automatic adjustable coilovers in the front and the rear, and you also get sway bars in the front and the rear as well. From what it looks like, the GT Performance Pack comes with Brembo brakes from the factory, and those are strong enough that there's really no reason to upgrade those brakes, if you will. But they are upgrading to a two-piece front rotor system, which I think is very nice and also very expensive. I've priced this before. You also pick up 20-inch Aero 5 Evo Forged Aluminum Wheels. That's a mouthful, but this is a brand new wheel that is forged aluminum, so that way you know it's going to be lightweight, but it also looks fantastic. And one of the reasons it looks fantastic is because of the wide body kit. And because you got the wide body kit means you can go with a much wider wheel and tire combination in the front and the rear. So specifically speaking, the wheels in the front are 10.5 inches wide, which is insane. The only thing that I have seen that is wider than that is our Mustang GTD. And then the rear wheels for that new RTR Spec 5, they're 11-inch wheels in the rear. Now, those wheels are available in 3 different colors. You have forged charcoal, podium champagne, or vapor silver. But this next part that I'm going to talk about is single-handedly the thing that has confused me the most. As you guys know, Vaughn Gittin Jr. and RTR Vehicles has been sponsored for a long time by Nitto Tires. But for me, it's very interesting to see that this vehicle comes automatically with Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. But yet they're sponsored by Nitto. So that's interesting. I have not had a chance to talk to Vaughn or anybody about that, but maybe they don't offer that specific size that they need for this wide body kit and those ultra wide wheels. That's my guess anyways. But anyways, the tires in the front are going to be 305 wide by 30 R20, and the dimensions in American Freedom units is right there on the screen. Just kind of give you an idea as how wide and how tall that tire is. And then for the rear, you have 3 15/30 R20s. And so it's obvious to say that since they are a staggered wheel setup, you cannot rotate these tires. And so it is truly a performance setup, if you will. Now, with the wheels, you do get an updated lug nut kit and tire pressure monitoring system to make sure that it all matches up to the Ford OEM. And then also you have a bunch of interior components. You have the serialized dash plaque. It's got engraving on it that actually shows Vaughn Gittin Jr.'s signature, which I think is pretty cool. You also pick up an RTR performance shift knob. Obviously, if you're going to be going with automatic or manual, it's going to look a little bit different. You also have RTR leather-covered Recaro seats, which is interesting. So what happens if you're a big boy and you don't fit in the Recaros? I'm curious to know, and I don't know yet. I'll find out later today, but I'm curious to know if you can get this in a non-Recaroed vehicle, because I'm a big boy myself, and, you know, that sometimes those seats can squeeze your love handles a little bit, if you know what I mean. But anyway, so that's what we're dealing with there. But you also get some updated RTR floor mats and a whole bunch of different components, like the key fob on the clamshell. So like these are my Bronco Raptor keys. And fun fact for you, I've actually got the RTR badge because I've got an RTR grill, RTR wheels, and a whole bunch of RTR components on my Bronco Raptor. So I thought I'd rep that key. But that's going to be what the key fob looks like, more than likely. But you also get RTR puddle lamps, which I think is cool. So that when you open the door, you got an RTR badge instead of a Mustang badge. Now, because this vehicle is supercharged, it does have updated oil in it, and it's going to require a different type of maintenance with a high-end performance supercharged vehicle. But the oil that comes in it is Motorcraft 5W50 full synthetic. And an oil change is going to require 10 quarts, so just kind of keep that in mind. And you don't necessarily want just anybody figuring out how to do an oil change on this vehicle, maintaining the vehicle. But Town & Country can. If you have a vehicle that you buy somewhere else, that's cool. We'll still be happy to service it for you, or we can sell it and service for you. We know what we're doing. This is what we do. We love this stuff. Now, I mentioned to you a couple of different things about the upgrades. We talked about the premium paint as a $7,500 option. We talked about paint to sample and the Mr. Chrome and Urban Bamboozle's $15,000 odd. But there's one option we did not talk about, and that is going to be the RTR Quit Fit Pro Racing Harness. And that's a $1,200 option if that's something you want to go with. Now, as I mentioned to you a little bit earlier, every single one of these Spec 5 customers receives a rendering of their Spec 5 if they order the vehicle. And once again, for the paint to sample customers, you actually get the physical speed shape painted in the selected color. But what I think is so cool about this vehicle is, yes, it is an expensive vehicle. It is not designed to be cheap. RTR's got those vehicles covered for you as well, with a brand new Mustang that is going to be coming directly from the Ford factory with an RTR package. But that vehicle is going to be set to the budget. And then you've got a Spec 1, Spec 2, Spec 3, Spec 5. It's nice you have all these different levels, if you will. It's really come full circle for the RTR team, and I'm just proud to be a part of the ride, if you will. And so I'm curious to know, what do you think about the price point and also the performance? Because from what I can see and from what I can tell, there's a good chance that this vehicle will smoke every single thing that is close to it in the budget range for what you're getting, especially with a full 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty. So if you want to order one of these vehicles, you can do it at invoice pricing. Once again, because there's only 50 of them made worldwide per year, there are limited, and I know I can get my hands on one, and I might can get a second allocation. If you want to order one of those vehicles, the way you want to do it is send an email to that email address right there on the screen. That'll connect directly with me, and I'll make sure that I help you through that process. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already done so, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single video. Peace.